This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing today? Did you know you can hold physical gold and silver in your registered accounts? And that deadline, folks, I believe if I'm doing my math correct, is 8 days away, March 2nd, okay? So once a contribution, you can make a contribution, make sure you're making your contribution before March 2nd, on March 2nd. But once it's made, you can add, you can unlock the potential of your RRSP, TFSA, RRIF, or Kids RESP by adding physical gold and silver to your account. You can turn those contributions, you can invest it into physical precious metals at any time. But March 2nd is the big day, okay? So March 2nd, 8 days away. Make sure if you are looking at putting money in there, you consider physical gold and silver into your account, or you just make a contribution, or if you've already made contributions, you can also transfer that over to physical precious metals at any time for the company I recommend, Silver Gold Bull, of course, with all their in-house solutions, whether buying, selling, or storing precious metals. You can text or email Graham for details with any questions around investing in precious metals or for future silver deals exclusive for you, the S&P listener, down in the show notes. The number there is, you can text them down there. And shout out to Silver Gold Bull and Bow Valley Credit Union, the two companies helping bring the Cornerstone Forum to Calgary, March 28th. Speaking of Bow Valley Credit Union, they got a new spot open in Red Deer that is a lending and advice center, and they're working towards opening a full-service branch. But the Lending Advice Center is all about lending, deposits, real financial advice. You can open accounts, talk through lending options, and get help with banking, all in a space designed for conversations, not transactions. If you want smarter banking with with gold, silver, Bitcoin, sound money, and personal freedom, head to bowvalleycu.com. And if you're wondering who to trust with your savings, Integrated Wealth Management. They're a full-service wealth management firm that actually manages money, watching client portfolios daily and making real-time adjustments when markets change. They see the same things you and I see: massive government spending, rising instability. Hello. Today's conversation with Tom and LTC Steven Murray, case in point, you got Iran, you got Mexico, you got stuff going on with Russia, Ukraine, or I guess Ukraine and what is it, Slovakia, regardless. It doesn't matter. Instability might be an understatement, and they say a lot of risk in government debt. So they use tools like precious metals and commodities to help protect your purchasing power. Most important, they work with people who share their values: family, community, hard work, living within your means, and personal freedom. If that sounds like you, go check them out at i-wealth.ca, and see if Integrated Wealth Management is the right fit for you and your family. Diamond 7 Meats here in Lloydminster is a family-run business with over 26 years of service, offering more than just retail cuts. They provide livestock processing for farmers and ranchers in Saskatchewan and Alberta, including custom sausage making for both domestic and wild game. And if you don't have your own animals, don't fret. Their retail sales can connect you directly with producers offering sides or quarters of beef, pork, and lamb, and their experienced staff can help you fill your freezer with exactly what you need. You can find them on the north end of town, Highway 17 and 67th Street North, or you can give Diamond 7 Meats a call today, 306-825-9718. Caleb Taves Renegade Acres Community Spotlight, March 28th, Cornerstone Forum is back, all right? All you procrastinators, I've been beating on this drum now for a couple weeks. We got 18 tickets left. So, I'm just saying, I just talked. Shout out to Michelle. She's thinking about coming. I'm like, well, don't think too long. There's 18 tickets left. Nothing to think about. Get your ticket and come be a part of the Cornerstone Forum community, and this year is going to be fun, okay? You want to know about China? Sam Cooper, Matt Ehret. That's going to be fun. Direction of Alberta? Well, who better than Premier Danielle Smith? You want world geopolitics? Why not Tom, Alex, Larry C. Johnson? That should be interesting. And if you're staring at, I don't know, the government printing money left, right, and center, different things going on economically, the Economic Roundtable, Vince Lanchi, Martin Armstrong, that should be entertaining as well. And as I told the Holmes family yesterday, we were talking about the importance of dialogue and conversation. Yeah, that's one that I'm excited for. I always like a positive roundtable in there. Chad Prather, Karen Kotowski, and Neil Oliver. talking about some things that I think are really important, and I look forward to exploring it with them. I think it's going to be a fun day. 18 tickets left. Don't wait, folks. Calgary, March 28th, Weston Calgary Airport. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Okay. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, Substack, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a review. And if you're enjoying the show, make sure to share with a friend. Shoot me a text, too. I've been enjoying some of the texts coming through. There's been some interesting thoughts coming through the old text line. All right. Let's get on to that tale of the tape. Today's first guest is a former research chemist, amateur dairy goat farmer, libertarian, and economist whose work can be found on Zero Hedge and Newsmax Media. He hosts the Gold, Goats, and Guns podcast, the second of retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel who served as an information warfare officer and cyber defense battalion commander. I'm talking about Tom Luongo and Lieutenant Colonel Steven Murray. So buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Sean Newman podcast. Today I'm joined by Mr. Tom Luongo, LTC Steven Murray. To all the people worried about LTC and me shortening it, I'll let
I don't care.
Steve.
I really don't care. LTC, Lieutenant Colonel, it's all good, right?
Lieutenant Colonel, for all the people listening who are worried about it, Lieutenant Colonel Steven Murray. My apologies. I just like to have fun with it because I text you every time I get all this mail saying I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to hop straight to it because we have a short time frame today. In my opinion, a short time frame. Mm-hmm. Mexico, Iran, those two specifically, okay? You two decide how you want to do this live on air, and away we go. But I was saying to Tom before Steve hopped in, I'm like, I've been in a bit of a haze. The old infection is finally starting to fade. I'm starting to feel better, folks. I thought when I had Tom and Alex on last time, I'm like, I'm coming out of it. Then I got asked about Iran and Mexico. I'm like, I have no friggin' clue. I'm going to make a couple texts. I'm going to bring some guys on. They're going to talk about it, and let's all learn together. Tom, Steve, Mexico, Iran, walk me through this.
Well, Steve, I did a show yesterday with Colonel Watkins, Battalion Kerrigan, like 24 hours after you guys did one. I would have shown up for your show, your talk with Tommy and her the day before, but I was way too busy. And so
I know you were slacking. I know how it goes.
Yeah, of course. And
you put your personal life ahead of my professional life, which is
we have games to play and porn to watch. Like let's get over ourselves. So so I don't know what you guys talked about because I didn't have a chance, but I talked to her and she and I both were of the same opinion that in many ways Iran is just the sequel to Venezuela.
Absolutely.
And in terms of military logistics and radar blanketing and all the rest of it. I want to hear what you have to say about it because you and I haven't spoken in an awfully long time. So that's where I'm going to start. But that's my general feeling.
Well, we haven't talked because that's part of my counter deception program. So keeping the enemy off balance is part of my daily routine. The short answer with Iran is we don't have the logistical capability of the ground forces to go after a country of 90 million. Didn't work out for us in Iraq. And I can tell you, even at the height of the surge in 2008, when we had 110,000 boots on the ground in the military and then probably another 125,000 contractors, we couldn't hold a city block. So what do you think the odds are that we can go move ground forces into Iran, which, by the way, I don't think any country has ever been able to conquer it in human history. So why would you try? I think what we'll see, if he's dumb enough, which I don't think, is we'll see limited airstrikes. We'll see strikes on infrastructure. We'll see strikes on communication centers and airfields. But that's going to be about the extent of it. I don't see – and first of all, I don't buy all the propaganda around General Kane saying that there'll be mass casualty events. Look, they have been moving equipment and missiles and drones into Iran since the 12-day war at a breakneck pace. So if we do kick off and we do cut off the communication centers, they're going to have prepositioned missile sites that will take out our ships. And we've never seen a mass casualty event since the end of, since World War II. Not even in Vietnam did we see a mass casualty event. So I think Trump's very cognizant of that. I think that he's been watching the situation, and I don't listen to what he says in the press, because a lot of times what he says in the press is just to incite people. I know he listens to his generals, and his generals make the decisions. So, yeah, we'll see. As far as Mexico goes, at some point that will spill over into the U.S. because the cartels have been here for decades. I can tell you from doing counter drug that they have very sophisticated networks across the United States in every city. They have very sophisticated supply lines. They have very sophisticated weapons caches. You name it, they've got it here. And they've been doing this for a very, very long time. Now, can they stand and fight against U.S. Army regulars? Doubtful. But they can run a very effective insurgency, and that would disrupt us in a lot of ways. And the guy that they took out was probably one of the lead human traffickers in Mexico. So that's going to have ripple effects as well.
Before you hop in on this, maybe you could just take one step back for me and go, is this about nuclear weapons? What are they signaling? Nuclear weapons, the protests, both? What is the boiling over of Iran right now?
Okay, well, Iran is about the nuclear. It's about getting Iran decolonized from a whole bunch of old British and French influence, which is the Devil's Legions, known in colloquial terms as the IRGC and the Axis of Resistance and all of that. Trump needs to thread the needle on that and get the Iranian government to the table to negotiate a deal that hardliners on both sides aren't going to be happy with, but they also get kind of what they want, right? So they're going to get, so to Steve's point, they're going to get probably limited airstrikes at some point in order to prove to everybody that Trump is serious, and the Hawks and the Christian Zionists and the Jewish Zionists and all those guys are all going to be like, yes, and then it's going to be just like the 12-day war last year when they're like, well, what, you're not finishing the job? Yeah, dude, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to destroy the infrastructure of the terror networks. Like, you have to separate that layer of Iran from the government, the institutions of the country, and everything else. That's what Trump is attempting to do, is to knock out that vertical, the same way that he effectively started the process last year in June, in the 12-day war. Use Venezuela as the reduct, as the first episode in this, and Iran is the sequel. You bring in massive amounts of air and naval assets, not ground forces, air and naval assets, right? What's that doing? It's putting a massive radar blanket over the entire region. No one can move men or material in or out. We publicly told everybody what we interdicted and what we didn't interdict, yada, yada, yada. And then when the time came, then that was all happening while the negotiations with Maduro were happening. Once the negotiations with Maduro were finalized, then sent in Delta Force, sent in the Snake Eaters, took care of the job, wiped out Maduro, wiped out the people who were holding effectively Maduro hostage, all the Cubans and the rest of it, exfiltrate Maduro, bring him into protective custody, and then reaffirm the existing civilian government. Right? That's what he did in Venezuela.
And that's what he's going to do here.
And take that same model and apply it to Iran. It's a more complicated question, more complicated problem, because you've got Israel involved. You've got the Turks that want to come in and save the IRGC, because Erdogan is Muslim Brotherhood and works for friggin' City of London too. Oh, by the way. So when you
I heard that yesterday, it cracked up, man.
What's that?
I heard that yesterday, it cracked up. Because the part that bothers me, it's not that you're right, it's that I knew you were right, and I didn't want to admit it to myself.
Well, I didn't want to admit it to myself either for forever and a day, man. Erdogan completely confused me and discombobulated me too, until finally somebody said, Muslim Brotherhood, Erdogan, City of London. I'm like, oh, right. So that's why he claimed half the Mediterranean, why he did all this, why he moved into Libya and this, that, and all that stuff. So Now he turns around and says, I'm going to commit ground forces to support the IRGC if Trump does anything in Iran. Like, oh, really? Okay, tell me you work for City of London without telling me you work for City of London. Oh, by the way, on the same day, the Ukrainians hit the Druzhba pipeline after Hungary and Slovakia say, we're cutting off electricity to Ukraine if they don't open up the pipeline. So Davos then turns around and bombs the friggin' pipeline, or Ukraine, or whomever. Pick your poison. And then this morning, by the way, there was a report this morning. I don't know if you saw this, Steve, of that. Again, big if true. Like, put the big salt to taste on top of this. That London and Paris are both considering giving Zelensky a dirty nuke to stop Russia.
Yeah,
which is exactly the casus belli as to why Putin moved across the border in February of 2022. 4 years to the freaking day, these guys are floating the idea that because Kamala Harris goes to the Munich Security Conference and says, hey, we should give nukes to Ukraine as a deterrent to Russia.
Yeah. It shows you how desperate they are.
I got news for you. That what happens there, that's not MAD. That's not MAD. Right? Give a dirty nuke to Zelensky in order to balance out the Russians' nuclear arsenal. No. That's a way to make sure that Kiev gets turned into glass.
Yeah. Translation: they're losing, and they know they're losing, and they can't turn it around.
So Iran is the sequel. So what I said about Venezuela, take that and put it over and blanket it over Iran. Massive air and naval assets, very few ground forces, right? Isolate Keir Starmer over Diego Garcia and his attempt to sell that out from underneath us. And so many other things. And then blanket the area so that Israel can't run a false flag operation. Or the Brits can't run a false flag operation while negotiations are going on, and eventually we're going to get a negotiated settlement. Joaquin Flores 2 weeks ago laid out the framework of the deal and told everybody what's happening on his Telegram channel. My people on our Slack server have been talking about it nonstop ever since. And Joaquin's usually right because he's really, really, really good at parsing statecraft. He's better at it than anybody else I've ever met. Okay. And he's like, the deal's already been negotiated. The problem now is you got to sell it. You got to sell it to the Hawks. You got to sell it to the peaceniks. You got to figure out a way to give them the way I described it yesterday to Colonel Watkins was you got to give everybody what they want and then have them go away unhappy.
It's like a divorce.
Right. Well,
right. Everybody walks out of the court feeling like they got screwed over. And eventually you're like, okay, that was somewhat fair.
Mm-hmm.
So,
excuse me. So yeah, that's the scenario.
No, I think you're spot on, Tom. I think look, when I saw the buildup of forces, everybody's like, we're going to attack Iran. I'm like, maybe 14 days. Yeah, I'll give it 14 days if he's dumb enough to do that. But you got to watch what he's done before, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went in, he was in the background making the deal. He was in the background talking to him, building up forces. And what did Maduro do? Hey, Happy New Year. I'm going to Club Fed, baby. Good to see you. Hey, everything's awesome. I love you, baby. Good to see you. Hey, how you doing?
Shit in handcuffs.
Was like, that dude was not going to prison. He's going to club. Like, that's a dude that made a deal right there.
Yeah,
like, hey,
that's the dude that made a deal.
You was their dad. I'm good, buddy. Yeah. So I see the same thing. And I can't even look at Twitter now, right? Because it's just full of propaganda. It's full of AI shills. It's full of, it's constant. And what I think is funny is as soon as Trump started talking about making a deal with Iran, all the anti-Jewish, anti-Semite stuff started to blow up. All of the, all of the white privilege stuff started to blow up. And you could just set your watch to it, right? Every time and I don't know if you guys caught this or not, but when they did the Board of Peace Summit, and I think it was President of Ecuador stood up and said, for the first time in generations, we have hope that we can make trade deals and solve regional problems with your leadership. Like, people don't realize how huge that statement alone is huge.
Yeah. It's a very, very big statement.
Yeah. And so it tells me that, get away from the domestic stuff, right? Because there's a lot of people that need to be swinging from lampposts. That said, I've seen Trump, and this is something I got to give him credit for. He has moved the ball downfield when it comes to foreign policy in ways that no one has ever moved the ball. And it tells me that, and I'm going somewhere with this, so just bear with me.
Of course.
It tells me that this stuff in Iran is exactly what you said. I think the deal's already done. The ink's already dry. They're just trying to push the message so people buy into it. Right? I don't see this turning into a regional war. I don't even see the Iraq or the Ukraine stuff turning into a nuke war, even though they're going to try their hardest. Putin's not going to buy. He's going to find, fix, and destroy that dirty bomb before it ever leaves.
Well, this is it becomes an interesting question, Steve. And God, I can't believe we're doing this for 15 minutes, and I realize my microphone's like way over there. I'm like, how discombobulated am I this morning? So I'm sorry if the audio sucked, Sean. You should have said something to me.
You were speaking so loud, I didn't think it sounded bad at all. If I'm being honest, I don't know.
Okay, well, fair point. Guilty. So the problem I have is that if you look at the number of successful over the course of the 4 years of this Ukraine-Russia war, the only thing I would push back on, I can push back, is just to remind people of, is that there's been an awful lot of very, very successful British intelligence operations and taken out. Like, they attacked the nuclear triad. They've attacked the Kerch Strait Bridge multiple times. They took out Nord Stream 2. Now they've taken out Druzhba. They've gone after. They've done drone swarms on, like, MI6, and the British intelligence, or whatever you want to call them, are still very, very capable inside Russia, running in, and effectively they've got very good human intelligence operations inside Russia, and that scares me. Still, it's a tail risk that we have to plan for. But as much as I would like to believe that Putin's in charge of everything and is on top of everything, we have a lot of data points which say otherwise. And I hope that when it comes to this stuff, that's part of the reason why other things have been, left by the wayside. They've gotten the physical attacks in, but it's because they're focused on trying to keep the quote unquote dirty bomb, off the table,
off the board.
Maybe that's the situation. Off the board, exactly. But to Steve's point, I agree with him. Like, that this is it's impressive what Trump has done. The Board of Peace is a massive end run around the UN, which is an old British project and all of that stuff. So, like,
well, I'd sure like to know what the 10 billion's for, though. I mean, what's the 10 billion for? What's the 10 billion for, right? So I look at it as it could potentially turn into a UN times 2. I mean, people change, agendas change, pendulum swings the other way. But I think he's off to the right start.
At the end of the day, it is off to a good start. And also, let's not kid ourselves. It doesn't have to be the only international organization brokering, doing stuff like this. It doesn't have to be a monolith. You can have a regional one that's working, in and around, focused on Gaza and focused on the Middle East and Central Asia. And you can have another one for, you can have another one somewhere else. It doesn't have to be a monolithic organization controlled by any one country, and therefore
they had their first meeting February 19th. Correct on that?
Yeah.
And then 27 countries are confirmed as full board members at this point. Is that right?
I think so. I heard the number 60, but that 60 attended.
I heard 60, 100, but I thought it was 26.
What I'm seeing here is 50 countries sent officials to the February 19th meeting, but some as full members and others as observers.
As observers, right?
But when I look at the full member list, I could be wrong, gentlemen, but I don't see Russia on there. I don't see China on there. Nope. I don't see any of the BRICS countries, if I'm being honest. I could be wrong on that. There might be one in there that I'm missing.
But yeah, no, they declined that, and so did Europe. Did the UK send anybody?
No, the UK. Well, they might have sent somebody. It says the European Union sent observers, but it didn't say anything. Like, the countries are Albania, Argentina, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Bulgaria, Cambodia, Egypt, El Salvador, Hungary, Indonesia, Israel, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Kuwait, Mongolia, Morocco, Pakistan, Paraguay, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. That's what they said was full members.
Those are the official members. Those are or is that the observer list?
No, that's the full members list. That's what I see.
Full members, those are all very important countries in that respect. Look, the one that sticks out for me, the two that stick out for me are Iran and Azerbaijan.
Morocco for me.
That too. Yeah.
Morocco is negotiating.
Iran's not on there, Tom.
I thought I heard you say Iran.
No, Indonesia, Israel, Jordan. No, Iran. When I say there's no brick.
Think about it this way:
China's Azerbaijan is a very big deal because Azerbaijan is a proxy for the Russians, and because Aliyev is still a British asset, and if Aliyev is trying to keep himself alive because he knows that everything's moving against him, that means that Azerbaijan shows up, but the Russians turn it down because Azerbaijan is all about the Trans-Caspian part of the international north-south transport corridor for the Russians. So Aliyev is now having to play a very, very interesting double game here, right? Because if he wants to stay in power, he's going to have to deal with the reality, and so that means he's going to have to eventually repudiate the Brits if necessary, and he will, because he knows that the Russians and the Americans are working together. Again, was Kazakhstan on the list?
Yes, Kazakhstan's on the list.
Yeah, no, that's all you need to know about that. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, that's a good point, right? I was just going to say that. Remember, China and the UK and the European nations are really heavily involved in the corruption that is NATO or UN. So it makes sense that you're breaking that paradigm. The way I view this whole board of peace is Trump is driving. He's driving the EU and the UK to a culmination point via this board of peace and via the UN to not only get rid of NATO, but get rid of the UN. He's finally, I think he's finally figured out that the UN is centrally owned by the Rothschilds and by the elite in Europe, and he wants to get rid of it in its entirety, along with the CFR, the Trilateral Council. There's a whole set of groups that are
everything that's south of Chatham House and the the
universe
and all the old British Round Table, all that stuff. It's very that it all ties back into their support of the cartels, the Axis of Resistance, and everything else. What's important about the Board of Peace is that you're getting all of these quote unquote minor nations mixed with heavy hitters in the region, Saudi Arabia, for example, obviously, right? Coming together and saying, yes, the Russians and the Chinese cannot sign off on this yet. They still have to be to their own. Look, we're still no one wants to believe that ARC is coming. America, Russia, China. No one wants to believe that yet, right? And the Russians and the Chinese can't say yet that this is what's coming. We're not at that state yet. You've got to get rid of the UK. You've got to get rid of the EU. You've got to get rid of, as Steve pointed out, the UN and all of these other organizations. And you've got to bankrupt them, and you've got to defang them. And you defang them, of course, by taking away their money and their men and their material and their logistics. And that's why we should go now from all of this stuff to the domestic policy stuff that Steve brought up in the beginning, because in my mind, knowing full well that, yes, the cartels are deeply embedded all across the country, the most important word in the English language right now is sheriff. Why? Because in every state, the power goes from the governor to the lieutenant governor to the sheriffs. The sheriffs are constitutional officers in the United States. They can deputize any fucking body they want. And when you have Florida sheriffs coming out, oh, you're on mute, Steve.
I know.
Okay. When you have Florida sheriffs coming out in response to what's going on down in Puerto Vallarta, right? Saying we have a problem with the Mexican cartels, that's a signal. By the way, just so you guys know, I was in that area of Puerto Vallarta in December of 2020. After they selected Joe Biden and they were going to install him as the first mushroom president, I'm like, I took the family to Mexico because I wasn't sure if I was coming back to the United States. The resort that I stayed at in Puerto Vallarta houses the U.S. Embassy down there. So this attack on that area of Puerto Vallarta, that was a failed attempt at taking over the U.S. Embassy. I'm firmly convinced of that. And having spent 2 weeks in that region, having spent 2 weeks literally there eating tacos, having asabuco, and hanging out on the beach and all the rest of it, it's right there. It's a place called Paradise Village. It's a massive, massive resort, and it houses the local hospital, the U.S. Embassy, everything. It in and of itself, it's basically an expat's town. You do not have to leave that resort for 2 weeks. It's full service. Okay, there's a Publix. Everything. So, is my mind, what I'm seeing down there is that was a failed attempt by the cartels to siege the American embassy in Puerto Vallarta and create a
international
a diplomatic problem for Trump on the eve of the State of the Union address, which is tonight.
Can somebody walk me through what the heck actually went on in Mexico? When I search it all out, I see that what was his name?
El Mencho.
El Mencho,
yeah.
Right? I hear, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
Can somebody walk me through, and then you two can go back and forth, but can somebody just walk me through the timeline of what went on here?
Go ahead, Steve.
My understanding is, and again, the secondhand information, is that it was actually a Delta team that went into this guy's hideout and took him out. Yeah. And they not only took him out, they took him out and executed him, and then exfiltrated out of the area. Mexican military took credit for it, which is typical. And then all the the CJN, I can't remember. What's the acronym for that cartel again?
CJNG.
Yeah, CJNG. All their Delta, which their Delta forces are modeled after Delta, are the ones that took to the street. And they were called to action about noon. And by 3 o'clock, the whole place was on fire. And what they were doing is they did it. And again, they took a page out of the Somali playbook from Somalia in 92. If you know anything about when Durant went down in Mogadishu, they were burning tires around the city to tell all the militias where the U.S. forces were. So every time we would move around the city, they would burn tires and signal where the U.S. troops were at. They were doing the same thing. They would burn cars and buses to show where the National Guard and the Mexican Army were at. So they were moving around the city, creating all kinds of chaos, but at the same time, they were signaling where all of the key military outposts and checkpoints were. So it was a well-coordinated attack. Do I think they could have taken the embassy? Doubt it. A couple of pissed off Marines at the gate would stop 5,000 men. But that said, what's next is what I'm really watching. I don't care so much about what happened on the ground there right now. What I care is, when does that spill over up here? And is that going to, because look, my view of this, the elements of the CIA and MI6 are behind this, because that specific cartel was working to do human trafficking, and you don't do that in that region without the CIA MI6 oversight. Full stop. So, and this is how bad it was at the border during the Biden administration. So the cartels would work with Border Patrol and with DHS. If Americans got detained on the other side of the border, they would literally walk them over to the border and hand them to Border Patrol. And it was an agreement. So imagine that agreement with the CIA moving kids and humans through the cartels, through Mexico, en route to the U.S. I mean, that's a well choreographed system down there. It's not, people need to stop thinking of the cartels as a bunch of thugs. These guys are very, very, very organized, and they have been trained by MI6. They've been trained by the CIA. These guys know how to do insurgency. They know how to do kinetic ops, and they definitively know how to blow things up. I mean, it's more than just cutting people up and, wrapping them up and sticking them in walls and houses. These guys are very, very professional. So people need to get this out of their head that this is just a bunch of thugs that are selling drugs. That's not what these guys were doing.
No.
Number one cash and carry trade on this planet is human trafficking. It far surpasses drugs by a factor of 10. And that's what these guys were doing. And again, it bears repeating. You don't do any of that without the oversight of the CIA and MI6 in that region. Full stop. So I'll just leave it there.
No, I mean, no, see, Steve, you're correct. And this is why what I've been saying for a while now is that you have to realize that we are watching a state go after non-state actors. And what you're watching is a bunch of bedwetting, pillow-biting fucking libertarians scream about how it's a terrible it's terrible that our state is like doing these horrible things. Just the state is evil. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, but as bad as and as incompetent as government is, at certain times, it's the same argument I've made about the Federal Reserve for all this time. At some point, as bad as things are, when you have the most powerful central bank, you use it to go after the other bad financial actors because it's the most powerful central bank on the planet. It controls the flow and the stock of the most powerful, important currency in the world, the US dollar. Well, same thing here with the United States military and and whatnot. The US is in a unique position with the right leadership and the right amount of will to begin the process of taking out these non-state actors. And you start by, as EM and we've talked with EM about, you start by getting rid of their public money. You stop them raiding the public till. You take away their cash, that level of their cash flow. Now you start going after the private money, which is what they're going after right now. As Steve just pointed out, cash and carry industry in the world, biggest one, human trafficking. Fine, take away the cash. Take away the cash layer. That means going after the money that's going. So you get rid of the illicit oil trade, you get rid of the illicit drug trade, you put pressure on those things. You knock out the non-state actors that are acting in Iran, in Lebanon, in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Vancouver, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, every fucking where else on the planet. This is a network, and you have to start knocking it down bit by bit by bit. The fact that they're willing to go after Mexico this early in the game tells you that they think they've got a good handle on things in other parts of the world.
And
because Mexico's the big Mexico's the big thing. So go ahead.
DHS has been running around the U.S. for the last year, going after the cells that they knew about up here that were a part of those cartels and a part of the networks that were sent in here prior to Trump coming into office. So this is multiple lines of operation are at play right now, is the way I see it, right? Because people think DHS are going after illegals. No, they were going after the hardcore cartel members. They were going after the funding sources. Like that big raid in Los Angeles that started all those riots, they were going after funding sources. They were raiding funding sources. Yes. They weren't raiding some textile factory that was employing a bunch of illegals. No, they were going after specific targets that were linked to the cartels and linked to the fund sites for the cartels. That's what they've been doing for the last year. That's why they've stayed out of the radar and said, we're not doing these mass deportations. That's later, right? We take out the cells, take out their ability to conduct ground operations here. At the same time, you're setting conditions to conduct ground operations there. So we've seen the transition now from the cold kinetic. Now we're in the hot kinetic. And the question is, how much capability do they still have on the ground here and in Canada? Because remember, they're in your country too. You may not think they are.
And the Canadian government is now openly saying, let's bring in foreign mercenaries in order to fight the evil Americans.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, dude, like seriously, this is again. But Sean and I, before you popped in, Sean and I were talking about the hockey game and what it meant symbolically, right? And it was important that like we want to save Canadian hockey by making it a part of the United States because like Carney and company are, look, where's the next Connor McDavid going to come from? And is his last name going to be Singh? And I'm sorry, but I'm all multiculti and everything, baby. But fuck that noise. Like, no.
The only time I'll disagree with Tom is I just think not on the Singh comment. I just think I don't need the I personally don't need the Americans to come save me. I look at Albertans, I'm like, let's just save ourselves already. Let's just do this.
I mean, but again, as you and I talked about with Alex,
and then we can be Team Alberta, and we can come whoop the U.S. in hockey someday and have our own team, right?
That's fine. But my point is that remember what we talked about with Alex last week, which is that logistically, practically, all of that. There's a lot of ins and outs about how you guys can, and we would love for you to declare independence. We would love to watch you flourish until London is done, until the EU is done, until the organized crime is done. That is not going to happen.
I agree.
That's the problem. And so it's not that look, you might need some help. And that's okay. Asking for help is a good thing. Having friends and asking them for help, that builds bonds and trust and like relationships and all the good stuff. And it's like we all want to be like fiercely independent. No, we can do it ourselves.
No, I want to be independent with good friends.
Like ask for help.
I want to be independent with good friends, Tom. I want to be independent with good friends. I want everything you're saying. I just want the independence part.
Well, let me tell you something.
You're still going to have to pay. You're still going to have to pay the United States for your defense. And otherwise we're going to have to you're going to need the A-10 warthogs, dude. I'm just telling you.
Well, when it comes to paying the United States, I just look at it and I go, well, no, we come to friendly agreements on it.
Well, I mean, I'll pay. It can be oil, it can be this, it can be that. There's all sorts of
right. You come to friendly. Anyways, we can get down the rabbit hole of Alberta independence, the United States, everything else. I draw us back to what is actually happening.
Let me put it this way, Sean. Alberta's not coming without Saskatchewan because we want the Athabasca Basin. Like it's just that simple, which is the uranium deposit, the big, almost the only one of the few actually profitable uranium deposits left on the freaking planet. Like it's kind of important. If you want to know why we're going into space, let's talk about that. But go ahead, Steve.
I just gonna say, spoken like a true Italian. You can't truly be independent unless you have the proper protection. Therefore, my friends and associates will help you out.
I mean, my friends and associates over here, it would be a real shame if your legs got broken. You know what I mean?
I can't say you might not have an unfortunate accident, but it could happen.
You can get further in his life with a kind word and a baseball bat than you can with just a fine word.
I maybe I'm wrong here, but I go like if I'm a strong guy, okay, I'm the United States, I'm the strong country. Don't I want strong countries beside me? Strong independent states that once right. So what you're hoping for is Alberta to be independent and stand on their own 2 feet and come to reasonable common sense agreements with the United States. We are going to need things from the United States. Yes. On the flip side, you've pointed out all the things that you're going to need from.
But I'm telling you, it's a hell of a lot easier to take to move to extend our Western Command over Alberta than it is for Alberta to build their own command. I mean, it's just reality. And then there's the legal stuff. I've talked about this. This is the legal stuff. There's the contract law. There's this, and all of those things that go along with it. There's our credit rating. I'm not saying that Alberta doesn't have the ability to build a credit rating on there. It will take. You are going to be under the kind of attack unless we destroy London for you, which we have to do for ourselves. At that point, this may all be fait accompli, and the whole Western Canada might just say, you know what, we don't need to be. Let's just be a thing, and we're Belarus to the United States as Russia, right? Union state while still being technically separate countries. Fine, but that's not going to happen until London is dismantled and destroyed. It's just not going to happen because you will never be able to build the kind of credit rating and investment profile necessary to build that country that you're talking about, because they've been doing this for a long time. And if you take Alex's lessons about Yugoslavia and the breakdown of Yugoslavia to heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colonialism
you're 10 times more important than Yugoslavia ever was.
Yeah. Just from a resource
and that's to your benefit, Sean. The fact that I'm that focused on it, like that's how important I think Alberta is, and why it's necessary. Like at a certain point, like news for you, dude. Like being a state in the United States is like practically being your own country, and you don't realize just how much independent states really have in this country. Like you just don't realize it
Maybe Sean should do a podcast with some American about how independent a state truly is.
Sure,
might be an interesting discussion.
It would be a very interesting. I think it's something that Albertans need to get a handle on, and in many ways, what territories get, what territories get too. As you and I've talked about. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it goes back to what you're saying about sheriffs, right? Mm-hmm. Because all the blue states right now are trying to pass legislation where the governor could remove a sheriff that's duly elected.
Bingo.
And that is consolidation of power right out of the communist playbook. And I want to throw something else on the table, not to keep us tangential, but since we're here, what if Alberta is the catalyst to get the Chinese out of Canada? Because you have a massive presence of Chinese in Canada, CCP, PLA, you name it, right? So
triads.
And all options are on the table. You asked me this question a couple of weeks ago. What should I expect? All options are on the table. They will do whatever it takes to keep this referendum from passing.
So, all right, since we're shifting here, let's shift to Alberta for a second. We'll just keep it here for a second because I've been positioning this. I talked about Tom and Alex and LTC. You were my first text. I should have just brought you Stroyer on, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to rile everybody up, right? Like, I'm like, I got to be careful here, right?
Because I'm only trying to shop.
But now Tom's pointing out like Alberta is important. Saskatchewan is important. I just had a video sent to me about the basin, Tom. Like literally in the last 24 hours. I'm like, people are starting to recognize how important this region. I know you have, but in fairness, when you look at the X machine, how often do you hear about uranium in Saskatchewan? Zero. Thank you. Zero. And now you've said it, and I just saw it sent to me yesterday. So everybody's starting to point out how important Saskatchewan is now, as Alberta's doing its thing. And so then I come back to the question that had got asked to me, and I was trying to position, and people are like, be careful of asking that question. I'm like, careful of asking it. When we're walking into signing a petition of getting out of this country, which is going to be followed up with a referendum. Danielle Smith just came out with her 9 referendum questions, which people are either pissed about, happy about, somewhere in between, doesn't matter. There's going to be a referendum in 2026, folks. And one of the questions on that referendum is, should we stay in Canada? I don't know where the chips fall. What I do know, though, is shenanigans are going to start to heat up. One being EB calling anyone who goes along with that as a traitor. Now you're starting to see people fired from their jobs. It feels very COVID-esque. Like, wait a second, you're not getting the shot? No, you can't work here. You can't dine in this restaurant, et cetera, et cetera. Wait, you're going to stand for Alberta independence? No, you're not working for me. You're going to demonize them. That's what we're starting to see. So I go, LTC, what else can Albertans expect? And Tom, you can add in from the world at large, because we're not just talking about Canada now. Not that we ever were, but some would think we are. We're talking about, the United States is looking at this. China's certainly looking at it. I mean, Steve, you just mentioned it. It's like, this looks like it could be China. We know London or the UK, Europe. I mean, look at what Carney's signaling. What can we expect sitting in this beautiful province?
I can tell you that all options are. I'll tell you exactly. So when Sean sent me this, my reply was very succinct. All options are on the table. Expect everything. Everything they can throw at you, from the COVID-esque, restrictions, to coercing business owners and landowners and ranchers to fire anybody who supports independence. They will try and isolate you away from the rest of the public. And that's just the coercive measures. That's not the propaganda measures. Then there's going to be a whole host of propaganda discrediting whoever's behind the movement, anybody that supports the movement, any of the leadership. Then they'll start to debank people. Then they'll start to arrest people. I mean, it's going to go the full gamut. You'll see assassinations all night. Because what are you talking about? You're talking about breaking with the Commonwealth. You're talking about breaking from the king. And there's a lot of very, very hardcore people, both in the UK and in Ottawa, that don't want to see that happen. Because you know what that means? If you're successful, what that means is that the king has lost complete control of the entire Commonwealth. Because if you go, so goes most of Australia. Like you could, Taz is gone, South Wales gone. They will file referendums shortly after yours is successful. It will be a domino effect, and they know it. So, I hate to say it, but BC will probably stay in the Commonwealth because most of them are indoctrinated, but it is what it is. But I see,
but on there, that's not true, because the lower mainland for sure. But the further you go up, everybody could draw. If you're Canadian, you're sitting here in your Alberta, Saskatchewan, you can draw out the people that would leave like almost immediately, and a good chunk of BC wants out.
Well, let's hope so.
Not Vancouver, not Vancouver.
Yeah, that's
like once again, I go back to your point. You're like, if you're sitting there and you just listen to what Steve said, you're like, what are you actually trying to do? Right? Don't be naive about this. Sean was once naive about the Freedom Convoy. When I went there, I was pretty naive. What was actually going on there? It's like, what are you actually standing up against? You fast forward to where we are in 2026. People just need to have their eyes on, right? It doesn't mean that anything nefarious is going to about to happen in your community, but the possibility of things going on. I mean, just take a step back and take a look at what is happening, what is being offered to happen. And then you take Martin Armstrong, you go, what would be the ripple effect of Alberta leaving? And Steve, you just said it. It wouldn't be just, Alberta's out and that's fine. Nothing else will happen. It's like, no, the ripple effect would be across the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes Alberta, if you take that thought process, becomes very, very important. Tom, you're obviously very quiet, which is freaking me out a little bit.
Oh, no, Sean, I wanted to hear what Steve had to say, because what did Steve say? He said exactly what I said last week when you and I spoke with Alex. I said, expect COVID times 5. Expect Brexit times 5, I think is exactly what I said.
Yeah, he said Brexit.
So yeah, they're going to throw everything at you. They're going to, Steve is going to see this in more kinetic terms than I am. I'm going to see it much more in effectively in the information space and everything else. But you guys are bringing up everything. What do I need to add to that other than, if you're going to do this, you better get hard, and you better get hard right freaking now. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, you're going to fight for it, and they're going to make you fight for every inch of it. But the truth of the matter is that, I don't even like, I don't know. You have to have the stones for it. And if you have the stones for it, you're going to have the stones for it. The bigger problem I'm going to have at this point is whether or not they're going to attempt to try and steal the referendum. The same way they tried to steal Brexit, the same way they tried to do. They're doing the shaping operations now. You're all traitors. You're all terrible. Yep. So they can move them. So about 2 weeks, they're going to put out some polls. By the way, maybe a week from now, put out polls saying, 75 more polls saying, you're traitors for even considering doing it. You're Bob. You're all this. It's going to, and they're all going to be bullshit. They're going to use bullshit wording in order to get the outcome they want, so that they can blast the headline they want. Look, British propaganda is very sophisticated, but it ain't all that. It ain't all that unique anymore. It's very predictable how they operate. They know exactly what they're doing to push whatever emotional buttons they want at that moment in time, and they will do so. So again, like I said before, this now gets down to, if you guys are willing to, you're going to fight for your independence. I don't know whether or not you're going to have to actually kinetically fight for your independence. We're all going to want to play by, Queensberry rules and all this. Guess who, created the Queensberry rules? Like, we're not allowed to actually fight to change political borders. This was after they drew, like I said to Colonel Watkins yesterday on Tommy's show. I'm like, didn't everybody notice that after World War II, the new state of affairs was we're not allowed to use force to change political borders, after they wrote and drew the worst friggin' political borders in the world that would ensure ethnic conflict the world over.
Yeah. But her point was, I think her point back to that was probably just as equally important of what you just said. They created borders to create friction and keep friction across cultural groups. And that is exactly what they will do here. Because remember, you got, how many cultures do you have just in your province? Mm-hmm. I know at least 4. I know at least 4. Imagine them stirring up the racial divide there right in the middle of this, because they'll do it. They're going to do everything they can.
Right. And so they created that those tensions, and then they're going to fund both sides of the tension. Right. So you create the potential for an ethnic conflict, and then you give money and weapons and drugs and booze to both the guys on both sides.
Classic CIA.
And then you just step back and go, oh, look. Oh, it's not me. It's the Jews that are running everything.
Yeah. It's the Jews. Yeah.
It's always the Jews. Like, it's so hilarious. Every time the friggin' Brits get us involved in some retarded global conflict to maintain their failing empire, who winds up getting gassed? They're setting it up this time too.
Oh yeah, the rhetoric's there. I mean, I
sniffed it out
by
on
the same
October 8th,
token,
2023. I could see it coming when all these fucking Twitter bots who are sitting there for years, dormant. Dexter White and I both saw the like massive number of anti-Semitic Twitter accounts showed up immediately, had been dormant since 2016. All of a sudden, boom, they were up and running.
But by
all of a sudden, it was okay to complain about the Jews and Jewish power and everything else. I wonder why.
Well, that's been taboo for generations, and now all of a sudden it's a thing. But by the same token, I'm sick of Mark Levin, and I'm definitely sick of Laura Loomer.
Oh, of course, we all are. The guy's a fucking psychopath, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I'm sick of both of them. So, yeah, counterpoint.
But that's why I think he sent Carlson to Israel to let Mike Huckabee show everybody how crazy these fucking people are. Because
we got to do a whole.
If Americans actually read a Bible that wasn't written by Jews,
we got to do a whole separate show on that, man. Because that's like way tangential. I want to come back to something. It's like one of the things I hate about doing shows with you and with EM is it takes me 3 days to decompress from all the shit that comes out of your mouth that I didn't know. And Watkins just makes me feel like a complete babbling chimp, right? Like, can you just chimp that down for me? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. If you haven't had her on your show, Sean, really you should. She's done the deep dive on the CIA. She's done the deep dive on DARPA. She's done the deep dive on all the relationships, right?
She's very good.
So anyway,
we had a wonderful chat yesterday. We hit it off like a house on fire. It was great.
Yeah, I've done like 6 weeks in a row with her and General Holt, and I was invited. I was shocked the first time. The repeats
this is what I'm calling now the intellectual dork web. And
one final question that comes in off a Substack for you guys. Kevin asks, how would we know if we're in World War III/Civil War? And if we can't tell, does it really matter?
We're already in it.
Yeah, we're already in World War III. Yeah. We're not. This is not a civil war. This is a world war.
I haven't. Yeah, because the big one is you got to watch Gold and Silver.
We didn't get there in Mexico. God, I knew we forgot something. God,
yeah,
we still have time. We still got 5-6 minutes. So
okay, so so
tie it back to happened on Friday. Yeah.
So note what happened on Friday. The SCOTUS comes down with their weird ass decision about the tariffs, and in some ways it's a very good thing, and in other ways it's a bad thing, and it's a very mixed decision. And the big question for the Trump administration: can they make lemonade out of those lemons? And I think they will. How is yet to be seen. But notice what happened immediately on that decision. Silver immediately jumps 9% on Friday, follows through on Sunday. This is what the Chinese offline moved again on Sunday night, and they're like doing everything imaginable to tamp it down this morning. This is the big raid on gold and silver at 7:15 this morning, which is a weird time for them to do that because it's between. It wasn't 3 a.m. on the London Open, and it wasn't 8:30 on the New York Open. It was in that dead zone time when, it was in a weird time. So they caught somebody flat-footed. They were able to get $100 on gold and $3 on silver. But what's important about this is that that's another front in the war. To the listener's question about how you know you're in World War III, because they're bombing gold and silver. Because we're using gold and silver to put pressure on London to break their flow control system over the collateral of the world: gold, silver, Bitcoin, oil, and all the rest of it. We're trying to destroy the LBMA. We're trying to destroy the London Metals Exchange, which is a main weapon of control that they have over the pricing of all assets worldwide, including U.S. Treasuries, including Japanese yen, including all of this shit you might hear on people talk about and that doesn't make any sense to you. Understand, it all still comes back to the collateral. Who's got the physical collateral? Who is over levered relative to the physical collateral in order to control its price? And who has control over the pricing mechanism? What we're fighting for right now, and this is one of the theaters of World War III, is control over the pricing mechanism of the physical collateral of the world. And both the Chinese and the United States both want control over it, and they're willing to share control over it as long as London doesn't have it anymore.
As long as they don't tokenize it, yeah.
Because and then you can tokenize it if you need to, but what's important is that London doesn't have the ability to set the price by infinitely rehypothecating and creating paper gold and paper silver. That, at the end of the day, you have to have the gold and the silver to be able to issue the stable coins or to issue this or whatever the tokenized assets are. In effect, we have to. That's all gold futures contracts are. So there's a lot of mechanisms here. We don't have time for it. I've done deep dives with other people and other venues on this. Check out my podcast I've done with Vince Lanci to get an understanding of how deep that rabbit hole goes, because we've done 6 or 7 of them. But understand that was a huge tell for me. Besant went on the fucking warpath Friday afternoon after the SCOTUS knocked down the tariffs. And he immediately turned on London. And then we had the geopolitical events of the weekend, like Mexico. Yep. And everything else is happening. So
everything pivots off of resources. Yep. Pivots off of resources of money. One other thing that for your audience, especially those in Alberta, remember, we're still in an information phase of this. This is not the kinetic phase. So you're going to see a massive flood of information that just turns the information space into just garbage. It's going to feel like you're just flooded with garbage. Yep. But remember, the signal in all of that is you'll see cyber attacks, because everything's on the table. They'll do cyber, they'll do kinetic, and you'll know when you make the transition when this starts to go kinetic and multiple people start either disappearing or they show up from an unfortunate accident. Then you'll know when we transition. But right now, we're still in the information space. They still need to convince the public this is a bad idea. So they're going to put as much propaganda on the airways as they possibly can to get people to buy into it. And I mean, 3 critical questions you got to ask yourself. The first one is, does any of this make sense? Because most of the time it's just nonsense. If it doesn't make sense, it's narrative. The other thing is who does this affect more? Does this affect them or does this affect me? If this affects me, then I should pay attention to it. The third thing, and this is probably the most important thing, don't believe anything at face value. Wait 24 to 48 hours to see how things develop before you start making an opinion about whether something's true or not. Because the information space right now works in about a 48-hour cycle, right? First story drops, then more information comes out, then it starts to get debunked, and then by the time 48 hours is out, the full truth is out in 2 different formats. You just have to decipher what it is. You're never going to, there's not a source of truth. So you're not going to get a source of truth anywhere from anything. There's no source of truth. Full stop.
48-hour rule is absolutely very, very important at this point. Yeah. Very, very important. I had so many interview requests on Friday about the tariff thing. And I'm like, I really don't want to answer any of these things until I've had 48 hours to process it, until everybody's had a chance to read the dissent and the opinion and this, and then think about it. And, we're being asked to be reaction monkeys when we should be thoughtful in our commentary.
Okay? Well, the key to winning the information war is to stay out of the emotional space. Don't let them get emotional. Don't let them get you emotional. Don't react to emotional things at all. Take a step away from the computer for at least a half an hour, and then come back to it, because they want you to feel isolated, alone, and they want you to react. That's how they manipulate you. Don't fall for that. And remember, those people across the aisle, they may not agree with you, but they're not your enemy. The enemy is the people in London that are pulling the strings. That's the enemy, the elite that have something to lose. Keep that in mind.
Gentlemen,
and keep Brussels in the loop as well, because remember, at this point, there ain't no air anymore between British elites and European elites, because they're under existential threat. So they're circling the wagons right now, and they've got policy coordination. When they thought they had the United States under Biden, it was Is it City of London? Is it Davos? And it was going back and forth because they were fighting for control because they thought they had already won. Now they're losing. Now they're circling the wagons. And so at this point, a City of London play is also a Davos play. Just for right now.
Yes. Gentlemen, thanks for hopping on. I know we're time crunch, so appreciate you both being here and doing this. And the 48-hour rule, I think this is very important, very timely.
Very important.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Steve, it was good catching up with you, man.
God bless.